Hey, welcome back everyone. Today I'd like to discuss what is the oldest story of all time, at least the oldest written down story of all time. And it's of course the Epic of Gilgamesh. I remember going to a museum that had an exhibit about ancient Sumer, and in that exhibit I just found it so fascinating because they kept referring to Gilgamesh or the Epic of Gilgamesh. And in the bookstore of the museum, fortunately, they had a copy. I went home, I read it right away, and this was probably about 20 years ago. And every couple of years, I reread it, and I always find it fascinating because it's the first hero journey story. I know a lot of people on YouTube talk about Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey. This predates that by literally thousands of years. It's so old that it's lost in the sands of time exactly how old this story is. And trust me, I don't want to give any spoiler alerts. It's only about 5,000 years old, so too soon for spoiler alerts. Obviously, I'm just kidding. What the Epic of Gilgamesh is mostly about is how mankind became civilized. Gilgamesh is a bit of a tyrannical king. He's very big, very strong. He would have, you can see on the front cover, that typical kind of very fancy beard and with posture like this, a typical old-fashioned king. His rival in the story, who later becomes his friend, is named Enkidu. And pardon me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I've only read it. No one in my life I communicate this stuff with. That's part of the fun of having a YouTube channel. In the comments, any problems with my pronunciation, please fix that. I always love learning from people who watch my videos. Not only am I trying to teach you something, I love learning too. So it's a reciprocal win-win relationship, as every relationship you have with anyone should always be. Value for value. So Enkidu is this wild man. He lives in the woods. He's so big and strong. And Enkidu and Gilgamesh end up getting in a physical fight. And basically, neither of them can beat each other. And Gilgamesh is the metaphor for civilization and order. And Enkidu is the metaphorical representation of living in the wild, being free. Kind of how I live in Canada, so I'm more familiar with the Aboriginal people, the Native American people of Canada and USA. And it would be, Enkidu would kind of represent the tranquil, beautiful way things were in an idealized way before the Europeans came. And Gilgamesh would basically stand in for any colonial forces going anywhere in the world. So it's a universal story. It's been going on forever. Order, as in law and order, and then wilderness and chaos. There's a lot of different interpretations. That's what makes the story so powerful. But anyways, back to the fight between Enkidu and Gilgamesh. It's basically a draw. And Enkidu is saying things like, I'll never live in a city. I'll never give up my freedom. It's so beautiful out here. And he has mannerisms almost like a wild animal. It's very on the nose that he's wild for all the good and bad that entails, depending how you look at it. But after the fight, they become friends because just like in an Avengers movie or something, oh, no, neither of us can beat each other, so let's team up and get everyone else. So then they go off to have wonderful adventures. And I'm so tempted to give more spoilers because it's such an amazing book. I'll only give this spoiler. If you know this book, a lot of you do, the Bible, of course, it is not even nearly as old as Gilgamesh. Proof of that is the Noah's Ark story. You'll find that here with different names and slightly different details, but you'll find that here. And you might say, this book, the Iliad or any of Homer's work, that's the foundation of Western canonical writing. I would say this is, even though it'd be considered Eastern. Personally, I don't care where anything comes from in the world. If it's an epic story or I can learn something, I'm on board with it. So the Epic of Gilgamesh is much older than the ancient Greek works like Homer, which was basically 800 BC. The Bible, it's disputed, but I know parts of the Bible take place Like Moses, for example, is approximately 1250 BC. But basically, a lot of people think the Bible was written down and codified around the time of Babylonian captivity in, I think, 500 or 600 BC, if I'm not mistaken. And that's where the Bible meets up with Gilgamesh. Because I believe it was Ezra who wrote down the Bible. Again, if I'm wrong with any of the details, please correct me. But in captivity, Ezra wrote down the Bible. Not to give offense to people who, I'm not saying who's right or wrong, but I know a lot of people think God literally wrote the Bible and helped Moses write the Ten Commandments and everything. By all means, whatever people believe, I'm on board with. But as far as I'm concerned with my storytelling here, when the Jewish people were in Babylonian captivity, they heard stories about Gilgamesh, and those stories even predate the Babylonian Empire, because Sumer, or Sumeria, is much older. You might know Hammurabi's Code, the first codified law, which famously has the eye for an eye line in it. That is not even as old as the Epic of Gilgamesh. So, I wonder if you think I'm recommending this book or not. I hope you're intrigued by the book, and at the very least, if you can find an provably older story than this, that would not make my day, that would make my year. I seek that out. The older the better as far as I'm concerned, because the older things are, the more it puts everything in common, because everyone's roots are varied and different. We come from all places and from all different times and from all different experiences. But this is the source that all of us have the most in common, because it's such a great metaphorical tale of civilization. Is it better to be peaceful and tranquil with nature, or to be civilized? And now that we're upon the dawning of the age of AI taking over, I mean, no, AI is not really a threat. Okay, where's that computer? Just kidding. I don't want to end this awesome story without one more word of advice. Whatever you read, whatever you find, take it all in, triangulate your position according to all the different facts you know. The more different points of reference you have, the more educated you are. If you want to go to a fancy school, go ahead. But I think not only what's behind me here, I have many rooms full of books in my house, but there's 10 times more information I can get in 5 minutes on the internet than all of my vast library combined. So the book is called The Epic of Gilgamesh. I strongly recommend it. Everyone could gain something from it. And I gotta shut the video off now because I can't wait to reread it for the 10 millionth time. Peace. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks so much. Bye now. See you soon.